So if I'm being honest, one of the things that's fun about philosophy and these conversations I have on the podcast and kind of abstract thinking is that it's kind of safe, right? It's thought exercises, it's hypotheticals, it's logical threads that you're following to think about things. But it doesn't actually mean anything in real life. But I think it's obvious that the only reason to do that stuff, the only value in it, is if it does have a pragmatic application. If there is something you can take to your everyday life and see value, see benefits, see things that are actually making your quality of life better, that are actually helping the people around you. So I try and test things like that in that way and be super honest about how the things I'm learning, the ways I'm thinking and approaching things, the philosophies that I believe in actually do provide benefits. How does it play out in real life? So I had an instance of this come up recently with my son. He had an assignment in school, seemingly a pretty innocuous, benign type assignment where they're trying to learn about different places around the world, different countries. So we got a letter that came home that said, we're going to do a project, we're going to create a poster for a country, and you just have to talk to your child and pick which country you want to do. And they gave us an example of the poster, and you're going to do some facts about it, the size of the population, some interesting things, all different stuff you'd expect. And so my son thought about it, and for those that don't know, he loves villains. Superheroes, villains, he kind of loves all that. So his mind went right there right away. Like, where are the villains that I like from? And most of the movies, most of the reference points he has, the villains are from America. They're from the US. And obviously that's not the intent of the project, so you can't pick that country. So long story short, there's a Marvel character called Wanda, who's actually not a villain, but she was in the beginning, who is from, or he thinks is from Russia. So his mind went to Russia. His mom, my wife, also studied Russian in school. So she speaks Russian, so she talks about that sometimes. So he has kind of this affinity to Russia, and he thought that might be a good choice. So his mind went there to pick it. But then, pretty quickly, his mind went to like, well, can I pick Russia? Because given what's going on today and kind of the way, even at his age in third grade, they talk about it with his friends and in school, Russia's doing some bad things in the world, right? They're hurting Ukraine, they're attacking, and they're doing a lot of bad stuff there. So right away, he was concerned that even though he maybe wanted to pick Russia, he might not be able to, because what are his friends going to say? Is it going to seem mean? Is it going to seem like he's like on their side and he doesn't want to come off that way? At the same time, as you might imagine, we've had some conversations about it, just Russia and the situation in general. And one of the things I've tried to convey to him is like, yeah, from what we can see, from what we know, like they're doing some bad things. They're hurting a lot of people. But it's important to make a distinction between Russia as a country and all the people that make it up and the people that are making decisions, right? Vladimir Putin being the leader, obviously, but the others that are actually making the decisions to hurt people. And it's complicated, right? It's tough because yes, we do want Russia to stop. We do want the bad things to stop. And we do want to hold people accountable. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we don't just demonize a whole country and a whole group of people. And furthermore, even if they are doing bad things, I'm a believer that part of the solution to that is to break this cycle of like, well, you did something bad, so now I hate you and I'm going to do something bad to you, and then you hate, and then it's just on and on and on and on and on, right? And I realize there's a degree of idealism to that, but I think there's truth to it too. And much in the spirit of where I started, like these philosophies, these abstract thoughts of like, well, you need to break that cycle. And the idea that if somebody does something bad, maybe you need to understand them. Maybe you need to not just jump to the idea of hating them or punishing them in some way. So all those things come into play. So there's that too when he picks Russia. There's a part of me that thinks like, hey, this is a cool opportunity for him as a kid to be the change we want to see in the world. To say like, hey, I know Russia's quote unquote bad right now and we're not happy with them, but all the more reason to lean into it and understand like what really is going on over there. I want to understand them at a people level. I want to understand the people, the humanity of it. Who are they? You know, how do they think? What is their culture? What is their history? All the more reason to learn about them and to understand it, to not jump to that conclusion of, well, they're bad, I hate them, I don't want anything to do with them. But even as I say all this, you hear all these things floating around, and again, it becomes very real right now. Well, now we're talking about my son and his life. And is it his responsibility to think about those things and be the change he wants to see? Is it even the change he wants to see? Does he even understand it? Does he even believe in it? right? So all these things are circulating, or you could just take the simpler approach and say, well, he picked it because of something simple. He just thought Russia was interesting and wanted to learn about him. So yeah, he should go with that. He should pick it. He shouldn't be afraid not to do that. He shouldn't be afraid of other people's reactions. He should be true to himself and be authentic. But at the same time, his authentic self had concerns about, is it okay? Are people gonna react? And like, that's valid, particularly for an 8-year-old. Like, who am I to send him to the slaughter potentially, where no, just be yourself, it's okay. And then he has a horrible experience at school and people are upset with him and he gets upset. But maybe it's a valuable life lesson where he learns, like, no, if you believe in it, be confident and stick to it. And that ability to have the courage and the willingness to do that is going to serve him well. And like, I think all these things are circulating, but you have to make decisions in life. So we talked about it this morning because it was due today, and we were on the fence and back and forth, and I was trying to walk this delicate line of like, hey, what do you actually want to do? While at the same time understanding his concerns and working through them. And he wanted to go with Russia. And there was a part of me as a parent that was like, hey, awesome, man, good for you, because you're sticking to what you want to do and you're being true to yourself. And I think there's good in this because you're understanding something that a lot of people are mad at or don't understand right now. But there's another part of me that to this moment is like, shit. Like, is that a huge mistake? Was that bad parenting, me allowing him to go do that? Was it my job to step in and stop him and say, guy, I know what you're looking to do. I know why you picked Russia, but it's not the right thing right now. There's too much danger. There's too much risk to you picking that and what might happen to you, the reactions you might get. And this is real life. And this is where you try and take all these things you think about and learn and apply it. And I ended in the place of, hey, as best I could, I tried to allow him to make his best decision. The decision that was true and right for him, that he actually wanted to go with. I tried to give him the information and help him think through the pros and the cons. I tried as best I could to not interject my biases and views in there, although I'm sure I did to some extent. And you have to just go with that and understand that we can't control things in life and bad things can always happen. And maybe something bad comes of this, maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's something to be learned that we should have done differently, and we try and do that. But you have to be thoughtfully authentic. But it takes it to a whole nother level when it's your kid that you're doing that with, because it feels like there's this responsibility to them to protect them. But what's the right way to protect them? And I can go on and on and on for another 3 hours in these circles. But to me, again, it's a good instance of taking the abstract, taking the philosophical and saying, okay, but now what? It's real life. How does it play out? And this is an example of that.